Hello there and welcome to Doctor Who Radio Show. That's the way it goes at 9, and this is a review of The Angels Take Manhattan, the final ever episode of Amy and Rory Pond, the first companions of Matt Smith's Doctor. This also features the return of the Angels, the Weeping Angels, and of course River Song, in an episode that quite frankly I think is better than the production values of Day of the Moon. The location shooting is absolutely gorgeous. The shot of the Doctor and Amy walking across the middle of Manhattan is absolutely beautiful. Just gives the whole scene a grandiose, epic size, the same as stories such as The Two Doctors in Seville, or The Fifth Doctor and the Master in The Planet of Fire. Anywhere like location shooting such as the City of Death, and every single time it takes the show into a totally new area. Unlike the classic series, we've had more of it recently in the last 2 seasons, and I think that reflects the desire to not only appeal to the Americans but also give not necessarily an epic type of scale, but to give a reward to the fans. The idea in this episode is that Manhattan, with all its different statues, whether it's the largest, the Statue of Liberty, or small little cherubs, are all angels, just like Cardiff in the early days during the 9th and 10th Doctor's time, being a stop point where the TARDIS could refuel because of all the temporary energy. This is the same with New York. The only difference is time existing beings are able to use it to power themselves. The humans themselves are a source of temporal energy for the angels. Quite frankly, it is Ghostbusters 2 and 1. Ghostbusters 1 in the sense that the Weeping Angel's biggest member is actually the Statue of Liberty. Sorry about that. And then in regards to Ghostbusters 2, it's the fact that, just like in that film, you had all these ghosts escaping the Ghostbusters building. You have an entire city of angels on every single street corner, in every single graveyard, in every single building. Quite literally a hunting ground for the angels. It's their Mecca, it's where they all go. But how they got there is another question entirely. The opening scenes for me, before the opening titles, were, I thought, some of the best I've ever seen for years. The Chandler-like detective who goes to investigate the angels, really being sent to his death, reminded me of Canton, Delaware, in the sense that yet again we have a tough American gung-ho character and an actor who's able to get down the character perfectly, in this case within literally minutes, not even an entire episode. And it's just perfectly correct that you have 1930s New York and the modern New York. But the best bit, quite frankly, is a little nod to Blink, all the way back in 2007. In that you had, from our time, a young black nurse, was it, who got zapped back into the past, and they encountered him again as an old man, passing on a message from the Doctor. In this, it's not so helpful or pleasant. He quite literally comes face to face with his future self, an elderly version of him, who, in what can only be described as a rather creepy moment, actually warns him that the angels that are going to send, and did send him back in time, are about to come for him. It's like the supernatural phenomena of people throughout history meeting their future selves. For instance, a civilian who's poor comes across his future rich self. The same person, except dressed in better clothes, and perhaps looking a little bit older, and that's the case of this. Then there's, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's the bad guy, the one who's really like a Staten, Van Staten type character from Dalek. Just like him, this character in Angels Take Manhatten is collecting beings which he doesn't have any real clue about the danger of. With Van Staten, it was the Daleks, Cybermen, etc., and abusing technology that was from an alien planet that was simply like a little flute. And same with the angels. But what makes it even worse, and again a Dalek reference, is that he's got one of these angels chained up. So finally an angel actually has some reason to want to zap him. Quite literally gets followed throughout the building that he used to use as the prison for the angels, and they come for him. A bit of comeuppance, if you like. And then there's River's song. It's very interesting, this episode, because finally all the little dots over the last few years of her appearances, Silence in the Library and many others up to the present day, are connected in quite literally just a few lines of dialogue. She points out that she's been pardoned, i.e. what was referred to in Blood and Stone, and she's now a professor, and that's how she's called in Silence in the Library, of course. So a direct link going back, because that's the whole point really. Every time the Doctor meets her, it's further in his timeline but backwards in hers, or something like that. I think that's how it was at first, but now they sort of altered it a little bit, and I just loved that. It was absolutely brilliant when they did that. It was so out of the blue and so well executed. So presumably the next story would either be Silence in the Library or something in between, because I think she doesn't actually meet Matt Smith in the next one or two meetings before the Tennant meeting. I think she meets his successor, Matt Smith's successor, because at one point she referred to how she had a knock on the door and the Doctor was standing in front of her with a new haircut and a new suit or something like that, although that might not necessarily refer to a generation. And then there's the angels themselves, an entire different array of angels. Just like every single gargoyle and every single church is different, so are these. And I have to admit, I thought the little bastard ones, the cherubs, they were kind of creepy really, especially when they started to laugh. The whole atmosphere reminded me of the best episodes of the Tom Baker years, like Brain of Morbius and the Mask of Mangora, he said in a sort of Sylvester McCoy type way, in the sense that it was all pitched perfectly, even the dialogue. You have darkness and also humour contracting and contrasting it. Rather curious. And then, of course, there's the departure of Amy and Rory. They have been loyal companions over the years. Loyal companions. They've grown. They've been helpful in actually expanding the possibilities of what could be done with Doctor Who before the episodes, i.e. prequels or iTunes exclusives, such as Pond Life. And really, this was another extension. They've grown up. We've seen them grown up, or grow up. We've seen their timeline be out of sync, and it's been brilliant. And the way they're removed from the series, if you like, was rather clever. There was at one point when I thought, oh dear, they've copped out of actually killing them off. But as it turns out, that's what happens. First they throw themselves off the building, then they sit up like they're still alive. The temple anomaly has, the time paradox has saved them, and then out of the blue an angel comes, the last of the angels, one last encore before presumably we never see them again. In a moment when you see yet another example of Matt Smith's excellent acting, he expresses grief that only the 11th Doctor can express. This is a companion he's had since 2010, the very first face. Truly in pain. Basically a case of a father having to let go of a son and daughter, really. And then they're gone. And in a nice full circle, the Doctor does read one final thing from Amelia Pond, from the Melody Malone book, which actually is telling them precisely what's going to happen next. The final page, quite literally. After all, this is the final page of Amy and Rory's time with the Doctor. And in that, she just tells him to go back and tell Amy Pond the stories that will make her believe in the Raggedy Doctor. And with that, the picture freezes as the sound of the TARDIS slowly echoes out. And this song truly is over. Thank you for joining me for Doctor Who Radio Show.